Alrighty then. Hello everyone, my name is FellVisage. I'll be running Bravely Second today. Not to be confused with Bravely Default 2. So let's get right in. So we'll be using the easiest difficulty and autosave on for safety and speed, obviously. And go. Oh, whoops! I did that, didn't I? Start 3, 2, 1, go. Oops. I lost on the map run. Right, a little bit late time, but you know, the game throws you right in at the very beginning to a real, very real boss fight. Yes, with very good music at least. So here it's just a glorified cutscene. You just mash through the text, hear basically none of the voice lines because fortunately in this game you can mash with 2 buttons. Right on the D-pad is effectively a confirm button in this game, and left is effectively a cancel button most of the time. So you can use it to get through some stuff significantly faster. Oh no, we died. Whatever shall we do? So, as I said, this game is not to be confused with Bravely Default 2. Bravely Second is a direct sequel to Bravely Default, the first one. Same world, many of the same characters, etc. As opposed to Bravely Default 2, which happens in a completely different world. So we'll be picking up a lot of hidden items and like sparklies and chests. Money routing in this game is very important and quite tight because gearing up your characters is about 10 times more important than gaining levels, though that is not to be mistaken with gaining job levels, which I will explain once we unlock jobs. So here I'm just gonna buy a lightning spell that I can't use yet, because the shop is right here, we walk right past it. Just another hidden item for money over here. Staff that we will never equip. We get introduced to our friendos. The tutorial chapter. So, the nice thing about this game is the maps are almost always very accurate in terms of where you can move. Unfortunately, this town does not follow that trend. It is incredibly hard to move optimally through this town. There's so many things to get caught on, and as I say, the map does not really match the actual walkable area pretty much at all. So standard RPG fare, run around, hit a bunch of plot triggers, skip some cutscenes before you can get into any real action. And a bunch of tutorials, of course. So unfortunately, why did I attack? That's because I was pretty concerned with the menu. So I opened the help menu there for a very specific reason, which is it's one of the things on the tutorial board there, which gives us a teleport stone. Which, my first teleport stone is relatively difficult to come by. Money in the early game is very, very tight. And they cost 100 each. Later on we'll buy enough for the entire run from there, but getting the first one, there's a few different sources. There's some item pickups you can grab, or you can do that. And here's our first boss, which we will make use of one of the best RPG mechanics in recent history, the Brave and Default system, mostly just using Brave here, which lets us attack multiple times at once. Using our resource called BP. Defaulting is the defend command and increases your BP by 1. And effectively, if you are below 0 PP at any time, your next turn will get skipped, as you get +1 to recover back to 0. It really does wonders for a speedrun of the game, because it means you can front-load huge amounts of burst damage in 1 or 2 turns, depending on how much you need. And it goes a very long way. But yeah, for these early fights, we have no jobs yet, just Freelancer. Which, don't get me wrong, Freelancer is a very, very strong class. Mostly for its level 2 ability, Halvesies, which I will be making somewhat gross use of in a few spots. But other than that, Freelancer will do basically nothing throughout the run. And here we get introduced to a mechanic I'm not going to use, summoning and sending. This is more for the multiplayer section of the game, but well, not particularly important. So luckily, later on we won't have to deal with random counters, but right now, unlike Bravely Default, we do not have a certain very important character to the story, and so we cannot turn encounters off yet. Because that ability is tied to that character in the universe, effectively. So we still have to flee, which introduces some frustrating early game RNG, but there's only so much you can do about it. We just continue progressing through the plot triggers, saying goodbye to our friends, for various reasons. And now we're good to set off. Straight back the way we came. So now we have a lot to repeat, at least, so we can, and auto battle, which is effectively tied to repeat. So we can turn this on, and it'll save through encounters, so we don't have to menu it anymore. Which makes the fleeing a little bit faster. But it's more useful for actual fights themselves, because it means you don't have to menu fights all the time. And so begins the money collection, which will be one of the primary focuses of like the entire first hour to hour and a half of the run. Just a huge amount of picking up random stuff along the way to get enough money. One of the interesting differences between the Japanese and English versions of this game is that they nerfed the sell price of a few items. That's this way. Most notably, some of the items that sell for 1,000 in this version sell for 5,000. But most of them are fairly out of the way anyway, and they save very little time overall in my opinion. Especially for my route, which effectively cuts an entire character worth of gearing for most of the game, so I need a lot less money to begin with. But unfortunately, it's unfortunate that I effectively have to grab items here so that money lines up later. Because you still have random counters on, so any extra steps is a significantly longer detour than later on when encounters are not going to be a thing. Now we'll have our first real-ish, I suppose, boss. But first, we have to chill. actually. So, you can use the touchscreen to press the Go button at the bottom left, on the bottom screen here, to default your entire party at once, which is really nice for the speedrun. Just speeds up your turns significantly. And here we get ADR. And I'm going to equip the Stinger on her, because it makes fight significantly faster if I don't get unlucky. And of course I can repeat, because I'm going to do this again next time. And unfortunately you went first. And I basically got no crits, so it actually took her 2 attacks too. And now we're getting the game's first job, and the game's best job, Wizard, which we will be hard of using, naturally. The main gimmick of this job, well, I don't have access to it quite yet, is it has a thing called Spellcraft, which lets you, like, edit spells with extra effects by using an extra BP and some extra MP. Let's set up our flea again. I have been getting very bad flea luck right now. I think that's the 3rd failed flea I've seen. Oh, whoops. Failing fleas in this is, like, quite rare. Unfortunately, the first spell edit thing is only unlocked at level 2, although it is a very powerful one. So we will be doing one boss without any, because we're not going to grind JP along the way or anything, that would be silly. Of course, we can't stop to kill things, especially considering how little JP you can get in this game per encounter, although we will remedy that with how we grind later. Luckily there is a solution somewhat to that. I'll be needing to focus shortly here to do my first shop menu, because I'm bad at multitasking, being male. So I need to scroll this a little bit. And so from now on we will basically not be using physical attacks pretty much at all. There'll be a few occasions where we use them for reasons other than damage, or because we're forced into it because of one silly fight. But other than that, we want to remove this stuff, sell everything. Oh, didn't mean to leave the shop. Fine, it's not much slower. I'm gonna buy 6 rods, because magic, lol. Oh, that's the wrong one. 4 of these, and 3 of these. And that's naturally just a whole bunch of magic gear. It'll increase our magic attack. So, the thing about equipping gear in this game is... yeah, each equipment has a rank, and S rank gets twice as much effect of the, like, 4 main stats. The 2 attack stats and the 2 defense stats. I think it's 2 times, if I remember correctly. If it's S rank compared to if it's the lowest rank. Another failed flea, very cool. So equipment means a lot more than it might seem when you check the equipment in the menu. Like in the items menu, to see what stats it has. And also, one of the nice things about the game that makes magic kind of broken is that dual wielding usually has pretty significant penalties to the damage you can deal with physical attacks. However, the amount of actual magic attack you gain from rods, or equipping any weapon with magic attack attached to it, does not get reduced by dual wielding. Or, more accurately, equipping more than one. There's a way you can remove that later with the dual wield skill from Ninja, but physical attacks are not exactly on the agenda anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Here we're just picking up our third party member, Magnolia, who in English speaks in French occasionally, due to being from the moon. Shh, don't overthink it. It's definitely how it works. So now we'll be equipping all of our junk that we just picked up and switching our job to the menu. My menu crashed. Luckily, this game has autosaves. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. It will be back very shortly. Very cool. Ah, I have to do this stuff again. That's frustrating. Oh well. It do be like that. Don't worry about that feeling of deja vu you guys are getting. It's nothing. You didn't see anything the first time. Nothing at all. So here's our third party member, Magnolia, who... I'm just kidding. Anyway, so yeah, menu here. We'll be switching everyone to wizards because, yes, good job. And then equipping all of our stuff. Luckily the game has a decent optimize button. Not the best optimize button ever. Ooh, lag. But, it's still a pretty good optimize button. And as long as you manage what's in your inventory at any given time, you don't particularly have to worry about, equipping the wrong things, because you don't have any wrong things for the game to equip for you. And so naturally that lightning spell we bought, like, at the very beginning, we can use it now. It's a type of magic called Spirit Magic, which targets all enemies by default, and effectively gains double effect from your intelligence stat. But because we're not going to be getting that many character levels over the course of the run, unfortunately it does not get very far. Its base power is not particularly high outside of that, so when you have a low end, it's not... And I got first strike, so please don't kill me. Did I just attack? I did. Right, of course, that's why. Because I had to reset because of the crash. Right, so now I have to set up my repeat again. At least Magnolia didn't fail to flee. So I guess starting here it's worth mentioning a couple of the unique traits of characters, which are not particularly major. It's just very small, like, stat variants. The most notable one tends to be that Magnolia is the fastest character. Oh. So you might have said your party is feeling brave. Noticed that it said your party is feeling brave there. What that does is it gives you an extra BP at the start of a fight, and we'll be wanting to see a lot of those later. But unfortunately there's not much you can do to influence it. There's some accessories that come fairly late in the game that you can use, and it somewhat scales based on your dex stat, although I don't know whether that's your total or your highest or what. It's not something you can do that much to affect, so... And the effect is fairly minor anyway. So it's not something I've considered too much. But it's worth noting. And there's 4 starter battle effects. There's enemies attack first, you attack first, which is nice at this part because they're fleeing. And then both parties can get +1 BP at the start of combat as well. Let me just double check that I'm actually equipping rods. It doesn't look like you is. Let me... Okay. It didn't look like he had the rods in his hand, but he did. So now we have second real boss, which is actually basically the first real boss. The previous one was basically unlosable, as long as you don't attack into her reflect stuff. However, with our setup, this fight is basically unlosable too. Although this is a very, very, very rare damage range. Sometimes, very, very rarely, she will live. But she didn't, so we're all good. Now we get the Chariot class. Another very, very broken job. But not for the reason that you might expect, considering it's a physical job, and I've just spent the entire run ragging on how physical is not the way. However, it comes with a very special ability in its list of passives, called Triple Wield, which we won't be getting for a little while yet, but I figured I'd let you know that it's there at least. Since, you know, Triple Wield, how does that work? You might wonder. I'm just going to leave you in that suspense for a little bit. Now we're trying to get our last party member, and our most important party member, so that we can finally stop dealing with these random encounters. Okay, no encounter yet, that's good. But first, we have to use a silly 3DS gimmick. The AR thing that nobody really used. But luckily we can skip it, so we don't actually have to use it at all. And here's Emotiz. Okay, good, no encounter. Hell yeah. While I cannot turn the encounters off yet, there is no more movement before I can. I rest in the bed here, just get full MP and such. And now we'll never see a random encounter ever again. Unless we want to, of course. Which we will, but, you know, not yet. Not for a while. So, once again, a few items to pick up in this dungeon, including a sneaky hidden one over here. The Mage Masher. Which is a good point. I was supposed to do my menu before here, but oh well. Not a big deal, it just means I need to remember to fix that later. Because now he's wielding the Mage Masher instead of what I actually want him to wield. And so we're leaving Tiz and Freelancer despite funny magic stuff. Because, as I mentioned earlier, Freelancer has a very, very... I missed an item. Very powerful... This is like the most important item, so I have to go back for it. It's 500 pigs, so it's because I was distracted by the menu. I usually do it as soon as he joins. Yeah. Freelancer has a very, very powerful ability on job level 2, which is very nice, called Halvesies. Which, what it does is you can use any item in your inventory, mostly recovery items, I'm not sure if you can use the others, and it turns single target items into multi-target items at half effectiveness. Which, for some items, doesn't matter at all, like status removal items, including Phoenix Downs for revival, and for some items, doesn't matter at all, because they heal so much that it overheals you anyway, like X potions. And so we will be abusing that in a few spots where survival is incredibly hard, as we will be very, very underleveled, as is the case in speedrunning basically every time. Basically. One more item, and we have the next fight. I'm going to save here, even though there's autosaves, because this screen is very long, and it's very easy to mess something up in the setup here. Even though I'm pretty sure I haven't. It's better to play it safe. It's also quite easy to randomly lose the fight if you get unlucky. Even though it's pretty rare. So we're just going to default to +3 here. Our first instance of actually caring about defaulting. And this is our first experience of spellcraft, the Dart spellcraft. It turns a spell into a single target spell, which is not always a downside. So I'll explain shortly. And it increases its damage by 1.5 times, and it makes it go at the very start of the turn. Now the reason it's not always a downside to be a single target spell is because if you use a multi-target spell and then convert it into a single target spell like that, sorry, give me 1 second. Oh, he defaulted. Might be bad. Okay, no, I only took 3, it's fine. What happens is that it gets an extra damage multiplier of ×2 if the spell your spellcrafting is always a multi-target spell, which we'll be using with a different set of spells later, but for now, Spirit Magic is always AoE like this, so Dart gets the ×2 multiplier, so it effectively does 3 times damage. Oh, this is not how you do. This, use Dr. Magnolia. There we go. This should kill. If he heals, it can be sketchy, but usually we just have to wait an extra turn. Isn't a big deal. Please die. Okay, he didn't die. And he healed. That's usually fine, because we can just do this. And the darts should kill. Or they won't, but ideally it won't matter. Yeah, there we go. And so this time, we get 2 jobs, because we killed 2 people for them. Well, we didn't kill them, but we did beat them up a lot. So we'll be seeing this asterisk sequence a lot. In Bravely Second, you get a lot of jobs through progressing through the plot rather than side quests, and side quests are almost entirely just for the jobs from Bravely Default. And all the new jobs are on the plot, which is really nice. It gives you a lot more variety without having to take long detours compared to the Bravely Default speedrun. I'm gonna do that now, so I don't forget. And now we just have to run all the way back to the first town. However, luckily, the game is not entirely sadistic, and does give us a decent option along the way here. Over here at the forest, which lets us cross to the other side without having to actually go through the dungeon. Very nice. This game has insanely good quality of life, especially when compared to Bravely Default, which was a very good game with basically no quality of life features at all compared to this. It did still have some, like removing encounters, since the 3DS version, or the version we got in the West, rather, was a remake of the original Bravely Default, which didn't have, like, any quality of life at all, But we are, at the very least, about to get our first mode of transportation, which we'll be getting a few of the course of the run. As we are now past what is effectively the tutorial chapter of the video game. So I didn't really explain what the 2 jobs we got did. There's... I don't remember its name particularly. I think Sword Fighter? It's like a stance-based class that has middling DPS, middling tank stats, middling everything. Fencer, that's the one. Yeah, it's just middling in every way. Unfortunately, we won't be using it. Like at all. And the other one is Bishop, which is effectively the white mage counterpart. its healing spells are based on max HP, usually, like a percent of max HP. And then it has some support as well. And we'll be making pretty gross use of some of those spells over the course of the run. Mostly in the later parts, because spellcraft is a very silly mechanic. So now we have this, the canoe. Not to be confused with the Final Fantasy I canoe. This can sail the seas, but only the shallows, unfortunately. So we just have to stick close to the continents as we paddle our way around. So I got caught by a silly, I hesitate to call it a glitch, but frustration with this game. Some cutscenes, you can reopen the skip cutscene menu in the lag between pressing the button to skip the cutscene and the cutscene actually registering as skipping if you mash too fast. So there's a bunch of cutscenes where you just have to be careful to not mash as fast as you can when you're trying to skip cutscenes. Otherwise, you just keep opening the skip cutscene menu and skipping it over and over and over and over. Unfortunately, it does not stack and skip later cutscenes or anything in advance. It just does nothing. So here's the second big menu. The upgrade from rod, the basic rod, to the rods I'm about to buy is very significant. The first few sets of rods in the game go from like 2 magic to like 6 to like 12. So the difference is incredibly large. And then the next sets of rods are usually like 14, 16, 18. So naturally it's a very large leap. It's yet another contributing factor to the fact that rods or magic is very, very strong over the course of the game. Now I have nice shop menu pay attention to. So don't mind me being silent for a bit. Rods. And the Mage Masher. So let me equip that, and the Lava. This. We're buying 8 of these. 1 of these. Now we gain access also. Wait, why? Yeah. To the pig, which teleports you to various towns that you've been to. Now we will be grinding for a short while. And by a short while, I do mean short compared to what you might be used to in grinding in RPG speedruns. It takes around a few minutes only, so it's not too bad. But there's a nice little peninsula over here which is full of weak enemies that come in decent formations. I will be waiting for daytime, however, as it is better for JP. And they just die very easily, especially to AoE magic, which, you know, we have a lot of. But daytime here has a enemy formation that nighttime does not, which is 2 tigers. And tigers give close to double the JP that the other enemies here do. And so this is the typical grinding method of the game. If you clear an encounter in 1 turn, you get given the option to like continue as a chain of encounters, like this. And you keep your current BP, and you get a bonus to all of your values. So we will be and this is why we want to see Brave Attack, or this is where we want to see Brave Attack, because it lets us chain for longer, as the multiplier gets higher and higher, up to 12, where you get times 3 and then it stops. But it's still better to go past 12, as long as we don't overshoot our goal here. And the goal here is to get Wizard to level 5, and then a little bit of extra in another class. But the other class is only for free characters, as we will be using another mechanic that I think typically doesn't see that much use in like casual playthroughs even. But it's a pretty decent mechanic. So we need 250-ish more for Wizard. And this will be enough grinding to get us to effectively the late game. It gives us enough character levels to not die to various things. It gives us the job levels to run the class that I want to run for most of the game, or most of the mid-game. And it gives us the money that we need to finish our early game shopping. So this should get me the 250 I need. Okay, it definitely will. I saw a lot of tigers in there, yeah. A little bit extra too. So now we want to switch to Charioteer to get the triple wield ability I mentioned earlier. But we're not going to do the same with Tiz. He doesn't need it. Just yet. Now, we need 130 JP, which is both fortunate and unfortunate. In that we can get 130 JP in 4 fights here, which is basically the... well, 5 fights rather. Which is basically the correct amount, because you can always get 5 as long as you don't get ambushed. However, it isn't always 130. So hopefully I get at least a little bit lucky here. I didn't get any brave attacks. Okay, I did get 130. That's nice. No, we don't menu yet. And make sure to turn the encounters off. Very important. Actually, did I check my money? A little bit short, but that's fine. I can make do with being short on money by picking up an extra item later. So it should be fine. Now we will go straight from there to fighting the next boss, which this boss would be very difficult if we didn't grind. And here, we're going to get what the game gives you is NPC friends. There's 4 friends the game will give you, even if you're not online. Bishop. So we'll be using Bishop on these guys for a while. This is to get the ability Good Measure, which is their specialty. Unfortunately, it doesn't learn it until level 6. Not you. Not you, sir. So I forgot to do this. And this is the Abilink feature. You can use these NPC friends to Abilink like this, and it lets you get some of their, like, job levels. Oops. Doing this hard. And then triple wield. And this one has triple wield already learnt. It's very nice. Which just means that Tiz doesn't have to, oh, wrong way. I've been doing that every single time since I came back to this game for this run. Yeah, it just means we don't have to, mess around with getting him the Charioteer JP. Now, we're not really using triple wield just yet, but it's better to equip it in the menu now whilst I'm in there. I equipped Spellcraft on my bishops. That's the wizard specialty, so they get it at any level. But to use it if you're not a wizard, you do have to get wizard to level 5 to learn Spellcraft, which is why that was the goal of the grind. And we also equipped a skill called Damage Dispersion, which what it does is when you get hit by a single target attack, you take 15% less damage for each ally that is alive, and that ally takes the damage instead. Which just makes single target attacks AoE attacks to some extent. It's basically 50% damage reduction as far as true survivability goes. It's naturally a very big deal. I'm actually going to save here because I feel like I've forgotten something. But I don't think I have. No, I should be fine. Do need to scroll down though. So the good measurability that I mentioned bishops have is you can use a spell twice, and it will cast that spell once instead of twice, and it will do 2.5 times damage. And you can combine that with Spellcraft. No, I don't need this. Yeah, you can combine that with Spellcraft to get insanely high damage spells. Please die. Yeah, there we go. Because you get the 2.5 multiplier, and then you stack the 1.5 multiplier of Dart, and you get the 2.0 multiplier of making a multi-target spell a single-target spell, etc. It just... the multipliers add up very quickly. Which is good for us. Love to see it. I need to check my HP. 400? Okay, good. So I need more than 400 HP to survive the next fight. But I can't stay at the inn. Unfortunately, there is one instance in this game's story at least, I'm not sure about side quests and stuff, where day-night cycle, as you might have seen in the world map and when I was grinding and such, matters. Which is, I need it to be daytime for the next plot trigger, and then I'll need it to be nighttime for the one immediately after. Unfortunately, until late in the game, there's no way to force the time to nighttime, only ways to force it to daytime. And so that does mean we are going to have to stand around and wait. Which is why, when I grinded, I waited until daytime, and you might think, well, isn't that just a time waste? Even if it's slightly more JP? No. It is 0 time, because you have to wait for the day-night cycle anyway here. I will still make the day cycle here, and then that I need to, and then I will make the night cycle immediately after. Which, you know, you would have to wait to some amount. Otherwise... Why party chat is actually a menace, by the way. You guys mentioning it. Because most RPGs have that button be the camp menu. But this game is special and uses X instead. So if I have been playing another RPG, and then I play this one, then I will often open one party chat by accident. Because I will press the wrong button to open the menu. So now we have to wait for nighttime, as I mentioned. First, to buy a very important spell, Mystic Boon, which is a buff that boosts your magic attack by 30%. And now, we're going to chill. Luckily, nighttime starts as soon as the sky starts to darken at all. So it doesn't take as long as you might think to wait for nighttime. But it still is annoying to have to wait like this and just stand still. It's a little, It's also, unfortunately, not short enough to take, or not long enough to take a real break. Not to mention it's very early into the run anyway, so taking a break would be pretty meaningless. So yeah, even though it was still pretty bright out, suddenly instant darkness. And so I did a little extra menuing in the previous fight. And that's because I need a little bit extra in this fight. Here. And by doing that little extra in the previous fight, I can just press repeat here. I'm supposed to leave it on. So, having this much damage here, it won't kill him, but it will move him into his second phase, where he will use Physical Boost, Mystic Boon, and then he'll use an AoE spell, which we survive, and then he dies. If you fight him in like phase 1, so to speak, he uses some really devastating single target physical attacks, and because we're all mages, it's pretty difficult to survive it. And here is Astrologian, yet another incredibly broken class. And one that every other speedrunner seems to sleep on. Which is the main core of my rerouting in this game, was around this class. Right here. It allows you to do some very obnoxious things. Now, we are going to do a side quest. There is a very, 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 very useful job behind this side quest for the early and mid game. And, I mean, late game too, but it's kind of overkill for the late game. But it's still good. Oh, whoops. Let's see. So we have to go all the way to the other side of town to start it. And all the way back to the other side of town to continue the plot. So this town is special, as it was in Bravely Default. If you enter from the right, you start on the right. If you enter from the left, you start on the left. Which is nice, because it means we don't have to walk all the way across the town multiple times. Because we can start on the right here, just where the cutscene, or where the side quest cutscene stuff is. I'm gonna grab this. A little bit of extra money, because I was a little short. Oh, does it not work like that in Bravely Default 1? Shows how long it's been since I played that game. Oh, is that only X thing that does it? I see. I don't know why I picked that. It's such a habit to pick that up. I don't need it, the Tengu anymore, because I pick up 2 Antarctic Winds instead. But, it is how it is. And so, if you've seen the Bravely Default speedrun, you might know what job this is, as well. Because it's one that speedrun goes out of the way to get as well. Oh, menu. I need to pay attention. Oh, I forgot to... Okay, it's only 11, but that's fine. I'll make do. Let's look at them. And then we can do this again. Leave through the left and then enter from the right. Because we have to go back to this building yet again. It's kind of the point for these games to be easy to break, though. At the very least, Bravely Default and Bravely Second, you break through combinations of stuff, which I prefer to the way they approached it in Bravely Default 2, where it's more about just having one good skill. There's a bunch of skills that just break it themselves. As this game is, or these two games are all about combos that are broken. I'm not supposed to pick that up. Oops, doesn't really matter. I thought it was this item for some reason. So because I only got 11 rods, I do need to pick up a little bit of extra money here. So I was short in the previous, or after grinding. I got too lucky with the tigers. The thing with the tigers is they're a lot less JP per kill. Well, they're a lot less money per kill for the amount of JP they give. So if you get a lot of 2 tiger formations, you end up short on money. But it's very quick to grab the extra from this area. It's not that big a deal overall. which is this 600 here. That's the extra one. That's cool. So all the side quests in this game give you options to unlock one class or the other. So here we will be unlocking the Summoner class, because, you know, magic, all that. Right, so... this is what the Antarctic winds are for. Hopefully he does not get confused. Okay, that's fine. And she's down. She's not down. Why did she live? It's fine. It's not an issue if she lives, because we just do this. That's the first time I've seen her survive that. I didn't even know this one was a range. Right, now I need shopping. I need to buy my other rod that I didn't pick up previous. Put that now. And I need to buy the... actually, no, not yet. It's later. Almost messed it up. I need to do this stuff yet first. So 11 of these, 11 of these, and I'm short money. It's nowhere near enough. Peed out. Phoenix Downs. The entire game. Right. Now we can continue the plot. But first, we need to do this. Need to change him to Charioteer. And heal him. And this is for a very specific reason. No, we're not going to be using physical attacks. As I said, physical attacks are basically just banned. However, there is something here. Something here that will require more HP. I think the Bravely Second soundtrack is as good as Bravely Default. However, Bravely Default has a lot more variety. And so people tend to lean into things. And so Bravely Default is also a lot more memorable due to that. But the individual songs in Bravely Second are just as good. So this is how you learn summons, or most other summons in this game. You fight one of these Anchorites, it casts it on you. Unfortunately, you can't skip the animation. And you just have to tank it. That's what Charioteer is for. Because as you can see, it demolished my party. Summoner. Oh, too many. Well, Charioteer is very strong in this game. Charioteer has some very, very strong DPS efficiency. It just doesn't hold up into late game, but that would be normal. It's quite normal for early jobs to last into the late game, in RPGs as a whole. It's just that these games kind of break that through having very, very strong jobs early. Even then, it's not like Wizard is actually an insanely strong job, it just has a really, really strong mechanic when used with other jobs. Things like that. Things like Bishop are also only really strong because Spellcraft is so broken. So I gotta grab an extra gold chest here because I still am a little behind on gold, I think. Because I had to sell some extra stuff for those PDs, Phoenix Downs, in the previous menu. I prefer to not grab that one, because it's a treasure chest, which takes a lot longer to pick up than a sparkly, but sometimes it cannot be avoided. Fair warning, summons are somewhat loud in this game when you cast them, especially when you cast them rapid fire on the highest animation. So if you have your volume loud, I suggest you fix that shortly, because we are going to be using summons. Now this next boss is a little bit unfortunate because it gives 120 JP and we want summon at level 3, so we are going to have to do a random encounter later. It'll be quieter later for the most part, because Rasvelga is not going to be used for too long. And it's like the loudest one, by a fair amount. But you can see what I mean with the whole audio thing. It's quite a bit louder than the rest of the game. What am I doing? However, there's a very specific place where I will be doing that extra encounter. Luckily, the way we set up our fight for that boss fight will also be good enough to just press repeat before going into the dungeon here. And that will give us our that will give us our 10 extra JP that we need for summon a level 3. And we only need that for one fight in the entire game. I will point it out as we get there. It'll be pretty obvious why we need it, I think. I mean, we'll use it, so... Right, now remember to turn the encounters off. I've forgotten that in the past many times. And then we can go back to Bishop. But we need to equip summoning. So in this dungeon, you have to press two levers, and then go back to where we are just now. And naturally that takes us through pretty much the entire dungeon. There is, however, fortunately, a very, very nice chest in this dungeon, containing a courage ring. Which is not nice because the courage ring is good, it's nice because the courage ring sells for 5,000, even in this version. It's an item that you get access to pretty early, that didn't get nerfed from the JP version to this one. And it's very nice because it's basically the only reason my money works. There's quite a lot of dungeon repeats from the first game, yeah. Yeah, this isn't the same dungeon, but to be fair, most of the repeat dungeons, there's only a few dungeons that are repeats that are not side quests, but there is a few of them. I need to check my MP. I might be low level. Okay, I have enough. Good. I will save though. Actually, I don't need to save. Just gotta auto save. So now we get the cutest boss. And for Spano. One of these heads is weak to magic only, and one of them is weak to physical only. Luckily, there's a spellcraft called Hammer, which converts your spell into a physical attack. And so, we really don't have to even think about it. We can just... I keep forgetting there's no cutscene after that boss. We can just use Hammer and it counts as a physical attack and it finishes the fight for us, basically instantly. And that's this chapter done with. Which means we get a pretty chunky section before our next boss. But there is going to be at least some stuff between. First things first, I need to buy some spells. These two. And I need to buy some accessories. For way later in the game. These. Now we're good to go. Unfortunately, the pig travel system, the telepigs, do not let you telepig when there's a cutscene like in the way, so to speak. So we have to walk manually. Unfortunately, I got poisoned, so you're gonna have to be dealing with this for a little while. Actually, I guess not. I think this cutscene here has a rest in it. So the poison should go away. Yeah, there we go. And then rather than continuing forwards, naturally, I'll be turning the heck around and using the pig instead. Because we need to go basically to the other side of the world. It's way faster to go to the other side of the world from closer to the other side of the world. Shocker, I know. So now we have to deal with quite a lot of cutscenes. And a couple of shops, I guess, along the way. For our next boss. However, we will be getting our main damaging spell along the way, which is exciting, I suppose. And luckily, there is a perfectly timed piece of equipment, a robe, that will allow us to get that summon without getting exploded. Because obviously last time we had to switch to Chariot. To survive it, but each anchorite that you see, like plot-wise, gets stronger, basically. So the next one is going to be significantly stronger. And, does mean we are going to have to find an alternative solution to surviving it. I agree, Wizard was as fun as it is broken. I think Spellcraft is the most fun, broken thing I've seen in an RPG for a very long time. Because it has so many cool options. So we came all the way to this bridge just to leave. So a couple shops to do here. We need to buy one robe I mentioned earlier. Which means I need to scroll big time. And then a couple spells as well. So we need to sell our courage ring, which is here. Always go to the bottom for some reason. It's the flame robe. Oops. And so by now you pretty much should have figured out. So we want Shadow and Magic Mirror. Wait, do I need Magic Mirror still in this route? I don't, right? I think I don't use it anymore. I should probably take that out of my notes. I was using it before. Oh, that's not a cutscene. It was. So now you get to go around the festival and some cute romancy stuff happens, but we don't get to see any of it because speedrunning is more important than romance, as we all know. So we need to go down here for a bomb arm. Now the thing about bomb arm, as opposed to the other throwable item we picked up earlier, the Antarctic Winds, the bomb arm is a tier 2 throwable item, which do 1500? Pretty sure. Instead of 500, which is, you know, it's a lot. And it's AoE and it doesn't scale with like default and stuff like that. And most importantly, it only takes 1 BP, as in it doesn't take any extra BP. Which means we can use it for the game mechanic called Bravely Second, which I haven't really gone into yet, and I'll go over it when we get there, because that's not for a while yet. But at the very least, we are now close to our next dungeon. This is, I believe, the first place where you can get an accessory in JP that sells for 5k that sells for 1000 in this. A smiley badge, I think? But I am playing on the English version because I cannot be bothered, and it doesn't save that much time. It would save more time if I needed more money, because I just barely get enough money from the things that aren't super out of the way. It's the wrong way. Take it to the next screen. This is a nice sprawling little dungeon with lots of like alternate paths and stuff. And we're just gonna ignore basically all of them. We're not gonna ignore this one. This leads to our boy here. To teach us Promethean Fire. I hope I equipped Flame Robe. I did. And as you'll see from the amount of damage that my other 3 party members take, there's just no surviving this without the Flame Robe. Which makes it very lucky for us that it's there. Because we do need this spell. Magnolia actually came fairly close to surviving, but she didn't. Still. Does unfortunately mean we need to heal. But we need to speak to the adventurer anyway at some time in this chapter to get our next friend, Buddybot. Whoops. Oh, right, whoops. I forget I'm not supposed to cancel out that menu with D-pad left. Else I will kill the speed up. Why did she not die? I must be, like, just barely underleveled compared to usual, because things are living. They're not supposed to live. Unless I made the same mistake I made last time. Let me check that. I don't think I did though, I'm pretty sure I fixed it. Let me double check. Nope. My last run, I only got the 11 rods and I forgot to equip the 12th, but I guess I just have really low damage rolls. That's happened twice already, so I'm guessing it's because my grind was really good. So I'm down a little bit of EXP. That shouldn't matter moving forward. I'm pretty close to just overkilling a bunch of stuff for a long time. Okay. I'm a speedrunner, I'm not the person to speak to for the plot of the game, unfortunately. I don't remember. I only know a little bit here and there, and the general gist. The general gist being beat the Empire. And yeah, it's a direct sequel in the same world and with most of the same characters and stuff, so that's why it's the same places, yeah. There's a lot of new places though, like this place. I'm pretty sure this is entirely new anyway. So now, I guess I need to do this menu. I should have done this earlier, to be honest, when I equipped summoning, but I just didn't. So, summon substitute is what you get for getting summoner to level 3. Very, 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 very important. Not for the next fight, but for the one after, at the very least. Now, this dungeon, Geyser Grotto, it does some good stuff and some bad stuff. Each of the 4 screens, if you fight in the water, has a unique effect. Most of them don't matter too much for us. The second screen matters a lot. Like, you can see that I've got 150% stats of some kinds. That was the effect of the water. And unfortunately, this second screen, the effect is... I've gone the right way. Yeah. Permanent Berserk. Which is our biggest ever obstacle in the course of this speedrun, because we are basically all in on magic. Luckily, some substitute here is willing to clean up for us. Thank God Summon Substitute exists, else this dungeon would be a joke. Brain, please. Wait, no, it's just Summon, right. Sorry? Brain stopped working for a second there. No Lilith Rod. Feels bad, man. So those enemies have a chance to drop a very endgame piece of gear called the Lilith Rod. Which you'd think, oh, it's a rod, and it's very endgame. You would just use it. No. The reason we want it is because it sells for 7,500. Unfortunately, it's a pretty low drop rate, even though there's 3 of them there. So it's pretty unlikely to get it, but it's still very, very nice to get it. Yep, you don't have enough MP, that's fine. Oh, actually, are we gonna be fine? Yeah. That shouldn't matter. That's not how that's supposed to go, but my MP was not correct. But that's fine. Luckily, that's the end of the dungeon, so we don't have to deal with this silly thing anymore. Huge amount of cutscenes here. We have 7 in a row. Where some stuff happens and some flashback happens, and I don't know what else, to be honest. I guess Yoko's a monster. I know about that one. Oh. There's a hidden Crimson Spear down here. Unfortunately, despite this being so far out of the way, we just kind of need it. To be fair, the only reason Godspeed Strike is so strong in Bravely Default 2 is because the speed portion ignores defense. And defense in that game is very strong on enemies. So hopefully my strat starts working now. I should... Oh, I didn't put the amulet, did I? Might not matter. I'm pretty sure this guy has like nowhere near enough HP to survive a full blasting. I do need to remember to equip it though. Okay, yeah. Wait. 780. Oh yeah, it's fine. I don't need it until after Angela. So now we're gonna have a hard boss. Which, I know, it's insane considering what we've been doing to every boss so far. But, we need to do some stuff for this fight. No, I don't need a menu for it. But we're gonna be abusing something I'm gonna abuse a few times in the run. And something that's pretty commonly known to be extremely strong in this game. But most speedruns, I believe, don't use it too much because, well, it is a bit slow unless you're a little bit weak. Like, it's slow, but if you're skipping a huge amount of grinding by doing it, then it's worth it, of course. Is the logic. Hopefully it just works. So this is Angelo. One of your party members will be ghosted here, which does some weird stuff. And it's like the only time we're going to see it. So I'm not going to go too in detail into it. And we're going to be using Blessing Mist. Now what this does is it puts a persistent buff on your team called a Mist that applies the effects of a spell at the end of each turn. And Blessing is a revival spell. So when he kills people, they're going to revive. And it lasts 3 turns. And, you know, as long as you don't die in 1 turn, or within 1 turn, it makes you effectively invincible. This is one of the, like, biggest wall bosses in like Roots, in my opinion. Angelo is like really strong for when you see him, and his ads are pain. So while I've got a bit of time here, I can explain a little bit about what Ghost does. It puts their HP to 0 and makes them effectively untargetable by everything, but it counts as dead. So if you have everyone else dead and 1 ghost, you lose. And also, they can only use magical or attacks that are, or anything that's magical in nature, which means no items, no physical attacks, etc. It's a very, like, abusable status, but it requires some pretty specific setup, and it's very rare. There's only one other boss that we see in the run who can do it, I believe. And I need to do a menu here before I forget. So first thing is to link Adia with the second one that we got earlier. This is for a very specific ability as well, just like the previous one. And we'll be finally switching to Astrologian now that he is Wizard 6, which is what he needs for Blast, which is the important one. And Adia needed that for the item, the attack item amp skill. Which, when I said earlier, those bomb arms are 1500 damage, yeah, now they're more because of that. It's very important for a couple of the fights, in terms of making them consistent at least. You don't actually need it, but it's very painful to do it without. Now, rather than sailing all the way around here as well, it's faster to go back into the town and pig over to the other town. Even though we have to go all the way over here, trigger a cutscene, because the cutscene happens on the beach. This is one of the rare situations where you can quote-unquote skip a cutscene by traveling with a pig. You still have to go watch it, of course. And now we see boss with insanely good music that we're basically not going to get to hear at all, unfortunately. This is Bile. It has some cool, unique mechanics with like revival and stuff that we're not going to interact with at all. So the Blast spellcraft turns a single target spell AoE, or an AoE target spell AoE, but it doesn't suffer from the usual penalty. The AoE spells suffer from regarding targets, so it's effectively a single target spell on each target rather than just an AoE spell. The reason that's good with... and that's good with Mystic Boon because it gives us the 30% magic attack buff on our entire party when it's normally a single target spell. Unfortunately, the M attack buff does have a cap initially of up to 150% magic attack. Like plus 50% that is. But going from 130% to 150% is still very effective. So it's worth doing it twice a lot of the time. The nice thing about the Astrologian class in particular is that its job specialty... It's the wrong... its job specialty is a skill called Prescience, which is a skill that makes the Astrologian go first always if it's using or with any actions that use or that are buffs. Right, cutscene skip or chapter skip. And so it means that he will always outspeed my other characters, even when they're using stuff like Dart, because it has more priority than Dart. So a very important thing to do in this chapter, because usually I wouldn't have to speak to the adventurer to save at all, or to rest at all rather, because you just get enough normal rests, is to speak to the adventurer. Because I need Albot from this chapter. The NPC, like friends, the NPC friends are, their skills and jobs and whatever, are based on what chapter you get them in. And it's different for each of the 4. So if you get the 3rd one, like the one I just got, if you get it in chapter 4, it'll have very different... this isn't a cutscene either. Brain, please. It'll have very different jobs and skills to what it has if you get it here. And we need some of the skills on it from this one. Like, big time. Like, really, really need. Not like kinda need. No, big need. Mega need. So once again, as is basically tradition in each chapter, we're about to have a very long segment where we do basically no combat at all. And we just run around, fill a bunch of plot triggers, pick up a bunch of items for money. Because this chapter is where we're going to be getting most of our late game gear. Oh. But first we have to do this fight against these idiots. Who don't understand they are vastly outclassed by Summon Dart. But yeah, this chapter is where we get our, like, end of the game rods. Because, as I mentioned way earlier, rods kind of only get, like, 2 extra attack or whatever every single tier after a certain point. So the M attack on them is a lot less important after a certain point, as opposed to what else they can do for you. And the rods in this chapter, in this town specifically, even, have 10% extra fire damage on them, which stacks with itself. And so, because we have triple wield on, each character can wield 3 of them, we get plus 30%. Well, I think it's actually multiplicative, so it's slightly more than plus 30%, but, you know, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's big damage. Unfortunately, it's all very, very expensive, because we need 9 of them. We're also going to be buying 3 robes, which are like the best DPS robe in the game until the very final chapter. Which, even then, they're the same DPS as the robe in the final chapter, it's just the one in the final chapter has more defense. And so, luckily, though, starting in this chapter, the amount of money you find for each, like, thing that sells for a decent amount, or each money pickup, starts to be worth a lot more. Like this one, that's 2,500, and there's another one later in the dungeon that's 3,000. There's some stuff that sells for 4,000 later in the chapter as well, so we are able to buy our 9 rods with basically no significant detours. There's going to be a couple significant detours, but it do be like that. One thing I have been considering is maybe I don't need all 9 rods immediately, and I could skip some stuff and come back for them later, but I didn't get that far in routing before I needed to do this run, because I've been very busy in the last few months. Funnily enough, we will actually be seeing this dungeon again later, despite the fact that the game never requires you to come back here for anything. Mostly because we'll need to shop here again later. Way later. But for now, at least. More cutscenes. This gap between the fight against the 3 soldiers earlier and the next boss is so long that I have a split for leaving this village when every other split I have, basically, is at the end of a fight. Because I hate having splits too far apart. And yeah, we don't have a 4th rod, because, well, you need quad wield for that. Or whatever quad wield is. I'm pretty sure it's called quad wield, right? And that's, you know, that's basically at the end of Charioteer. It's never happening. JP is already very tight, despite all the grinding we have to do. Extra grinding is bad. Robes are pretty decent though, so it is definitely the case that I don't have to consider it too much. I think that's enough already. Yeah, quad wield would probably be better. Well, it might be hard to say for sure, because you do need some amount of defense stats to be able to tank like the first hit of bosses, so maybe not even. The robe that we get, the one we just bought, doesn't have nearly enough defense to survive the final boss. Gauntlet stuff. Which is why I'll be buying another robe, or the other robe, in the very final chapter, that has the same amount of DPS on it. Well, I think it does have slightly more DPS, but nothing major. But it has so much more defense that it's worth it. That's what I should do. So we have another one of these dungeons here, where you touch crystals and things move, just like the one in the Harana Sea Caves. However, this dungeon also has a couple extra gimmicks of fake walls and invisible floors. It also has the gimmick of having an absolute ton of money and gear that sells for good money. So, we're glad that exists. At least. Gimmick. Yes, gimmick. Having tons and tons of money inside is definitely a gimmick. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Especially when there's not even a boss here. Abandoned hat. And this one tricks you. It's like, oh, you must do the same thing as you just did. But both crystals are on this side, and it's like, ooh. So where do you go? Very complex puzzle. It's just an invisible floor over here, of course. If there was going to be a category that allowed Abalinks from, like, online friends, you would skip the Abalink part, and it would just be, like, online %, and you would just summon friends instead, and they would murder things for you. And it would be pretty uninteresting, naturally. Now, unfortunately, this is an extremely long detour, but it has to be done. I'm short money otherwise. I'm sure this would be a shorter detour, like a significantly shorter detour, if not for the fact that this game's on a Nintendo console, but, you know, load times do be like that. Need the Gaia gear from this chest. Before we put the blue one down. So, because I'm going to have to focus for the next boss, I guess I'm going to explain a couple things about it in advance. Next boss is called Geist. His job is the Exorcist. Has a unique mechanic in Undo. He can undo a bunch of stuff. He uses Undo HP on himself. After you damage him, he heals himself. If he uses Undo HP on your allies after you heal them, it will put them back to whatever HP they were, effectively dealing damage. And it's mostly a pain to deal with. He's a pretty hard fight to begin with, because he comes with some pretty powerful adds. However, with the magic of a mechanic called Bravely Second, which I said I would go over later, we will be trivializing the fight mostly. It's still not going to be the easiest fight ever. If you do anything wrong, it still goes very badly. Which does remind me I do need to do a menu here. This is why we need Power Bot. He doesn't need Triple Wield anymore, so... But he does need Holy Magic. So Teleport Stone. I'm hoping I picked everything up. I'm pretty sure I did. But there's a chance I didn't. And we're gonna go spend about 35k on rods. So what Bravely Second does is it lets you take a turn without the turn happening, and it costs a resource called SP, which regenerates over time. The speedrun rule is just that you're allowed to have 3 at the start of the run, which gives you 4 EP worth of actions in Bravely Second. And we will be using that on 4 different occasions to do some very consistency enabling stuff. Almost swore. Stop myself. Oh yeah, I still didn't equip that. Okay. Is that short? That's 33,750, right? Oh, this. Yeah. Whoops. And then the pig. Sakata. He does have a first phase, which is just to show you how powerful he is outside of plot mechanisms. Wait, I'm just going to cast a spell on him and the phase will end, but here's what it is. But first, we have to do this You and Magnolia Only section, where they do more character building stuff with each other. More cute, romancy type stuff that I still don't remember the details of. Also, just in case, it's only going to take me a little bit to check. Oh, I can't check yet, right? Of course. Well, I need to double check that Adir is the one with item amp. Should be, because that's what's in my notes. So it'd be strange for me to do it differently. But Can't trust it. This fight takes quite a long time, so I don't really want to have to redo it at any point. Now we have to walk all the way back. It'd be nice if there was at least some kind of music here. Especially on the way back, because there's no cutscenes to interrupt it. Alas, let's get ambient wind blowing noises instead. Which is fair, I mean we're pretty high up. Right, let's check this. Yeah, good, good, good. Had to double check it. Not worth not checking it. Now we find out that Tears is possessed by a ghost, effectively. Not quite, but, you know, close enough. Right, boss time. Hopefully I do not mess it up. So as I say, this phase, I can just cast a spell at him and he will phase. Undo. Undo. Righty. So I'll be focused a bit here. But yeah, the problem in this fight mostly is actually just it's hard to kill the ads and then also have the juice to kill him afterwards. Especially because if he undoes between your turns, you just like lose. And this will just end them. And we will be using Vivify Mist to heal us up. And so I'm going to be using one called Needle that I used once earlier and didn't really explain. What Needle does is it's basically the same thing as Dart, except it doesn't go first, and it hits every enemy that has the same name. Now, obviously we're not using that here. The reason we're using Needle here is because we don't want to go first, which Dart does. Because it stops him being able to... it means he won't be able to heal between our spells, as long as he doesn't go too slow first turn. And just like that, he has been dealt with. And then we have another boss, which is supposed to be an issue. There's a couple things you can do to avoid the issue of this next fight. This next fight has a gimmick where it's either immune to magic or physical attacks based on its form, I'm pretty sure is its thing. And it starts magic immune. I think that's what it does, right? Yeah, it starts magic immune and it does pretty high damage, so it's a pretty sketchy boss. However, there's two things you can do to avoid it. One, it counts as a reflect effect, so if you reflect off your own team... Oh yeah, I guess there's also Hammer, so I guess there's three ways. You could use Hammer. Oh, whoops, wrong town. My bad. So I need to do this. Yeah, you could use Reflect, and because things can only be reflected once, it would just go through it anyway. However, the way we will be doing it is that it also counts... I forgot something in the menu. It also doesn't work if they are weak to the attack that you use. It counts... It's on like the same table as elemental resistances and weaknesses. And so luckily we have the confectionery class and a few items from the boss fight. To use it. And so we'll be using the power of Cake to win. Yes, I'll be overwriting its immunity with weakness. What do we have? Okay, we don't have fire, unfortunately, so that does make the fight a little bit slower. Makes it a turn slower. If it's fire, if we get the item, unfortunately the items you get for this are random from the boss that drops them. If you get a fire immunity item as part of that random stuff, you can skip one of those turns. Luckily, you always have wind available. Now I need to re-equip the attack item amp. And luckily this next boss has... because it's 2 bosses in a row, the game is kind. And if you lose, as we are about to, it simply places you where we just were, fully healed. So we will do this, and then it puts us right back here. And now we are fully ready to go, because we don't have the MP to win the fight. That's the main thing. The HP does matter, but not as much as the... I didn't equip the... I need to die again. I still haven't equipped the amulet. I keep forgetting to do it. I probably should have manually removed my own party members, rather than just waiting for them to do it. So these animations. Luckily I noticed in time. Because I think this is a fight where it really, really does matter to have it on. Okay. Wasn't that much time lost. Yeah, on higher difficulties you just can't beat their health bar before they kill you, so... with these types of strats. So again, we're going to do this again, which is why we needed 2 bomb arms. Fire. Wait. Ugh. This is a pain. Wait, no, this is fine. I'm looking at the wrong strat. My bad. Mystic Mist. Mirror Blast. Oh no, we do use Magic Mirror Blast. We do use Magic Mirror? Okay. Oh, sound died? It shouldn't be on my end. I think it's on the restreamer's end. Right, so we have to salvage this somehow. So unfortunately, this is going a little bit badly. Okay, it didn't default at least, so now I can just do this, I believe. Luckily this fight's easy enough to salvage. If stuff like that happens. I don't have the mana for that. I do have the mana for this. Okay. So yeah, you can salvage this fight. It was slow, but unfortunately that's just how it be. And now we have Bishop level 6, pretty much entirely from boss fights. And Bishop level 6 is the thing we really need. Because now we have good measure as an actual skill. So now we can use the, frankly, better... Should have gone the other way here. That's good measure. Yeah. Wizard has better magic stat and... it also has, yeah, it has a better magic stat and better rod affinity. or proficiency, however you want to say it. Chapter. I'm sure they're trying to fix it. Oh yeah, as they say in chat, it's being looked into. Nothing has changed on my end, so they'll sort it out soon enough. Many people can hear me. Luckily, you don't miss out on too much with the audio. I've explained most things that need explaining as well, so it's just specific fight strats now, and how tight they can be. But I'll keep speaking as if it is working fine, because that way, when it is fixed, you will all hear me. So the next boss, Revenant, has a few issues when you're as weak as our team is right now. Let's grab these chests before I forget. The main issue is that he's just extremely tanky. Everything does a huge amount of damage to us, no matter what, because we're so underleveled and we're squishy jobs. So something being tanky naturally means it out DPS's us if it survives. So we have to do some stuff to manage to live. Luckily, Revive Mist is here to save the day yet again. Aha. Since people are saying there we go, I assume the audio is fixed. So I was just explaining about the next fight. It's quite hard in many ways, just because the boss is very tanky, and just a boss being tanky naturally means it out DPS's us because we're so squishy. Luckily, we have Blessing Mist, which will keep reviving us. The main issue then is just that we need to kill these ads as soon as possible. But Dart, once again, here to save the day. So that we can kill them before they take any actions. And then we'll casually get murdered a couple times here, most likely. Have to do it again, because otherwise it runs out. Nope. Whoops. That's only one character. I'm gonna have to take an extra turn. I'll be fine. That means I'm gonna have to take an entire extra cycle, actually. Whoopsies. It's fine, it's only one turn. Set one. And now he should die. There we go. Yeah, very tanky boss combined with tanky ads that go really fast is most of the issue. But, as I say, being able to revive at the end of the turn every turn as long as you have at least one person alive is just an incredibly broken mechanic when you're so underleveled. And the next segment I'm going to be grabbing an item that takes about 30 seconds to grab, which I usually wouldn't, but it's part of marathon safety. It's the, it's either Hermes shoes or Hermes sandals, I don't remember which ones are the weaker ones. And it's just because, there's another grind section later, and agility is very important to it. So having the extra 10 agility from the +5 agility accessory is just very, very useful. This way. Let's forget which one this is. Pretty sure it's right. It's right and then left. But first we have another... Oh no, not first actually. We pick up the Hermes and then there's the boss, right. Luckily the next couple bosses, a few bosses really, are basically nothing compared to what we just had to deal with. I'm going the wrong way. The next one's just gonna die, basically. Although we will still have to use Revive Mist because we just don't have enough raw damage to finish it in one go. But the detour is here. It starts here, and then goes around the other way. It goes all the way back round. Just a 30-second detour. But every run I've done has died in the first fight of the grind. The next grind, that is. So, it's just a very inconsistent grind, unfortunately. Unless you pick this up. As you can see, we're now back where we were just now. Ready to fight the next boss. Oh, the wrong way. Don't even know how. So here's Jan once again. Probably shouldn't do that, just in case something goes badly. Horribly, horribly wrong somehow. So the nice thing about Mist is it happens before you gain BP for the turn. So it basically prevents you from missing out on BP as well, which is the main issue when someone dies in a fight, like mid-fight. Now the next boss is where the bosses take a real break. Like, big time. Because we won't even have to take more than one turn. Oh well, I guess the one after the next boss does need one extra turn, but we don't do anything on that turn. Here's the Luminous Robe. We're gonna equip this on Tiz for safety. I do this in runs anyway. Yeah, you do. But I'm not 100% sure it's necessary. Do I have the mana? I do. So this is like the end of like part 1, so to speak. Final boss of part 1. And then the game is about to do its cool meta stuff that Bravely likes to do. And that people hate when they have no observation skills. So, because this boss is weak to fire, we don't even have to spend any time, like, going slow. We do have to do the darts individually, though, like this, rather than using Good Measure. Because the thing about Good Measure is it is still subject to the damage cap. Of 9,999, which we would easily hit there. The nice thing about that strat is because it's using dart, she has no opportunity to mess you up. No. It's autopilot. So I mentioned earlier we're going to go back into that forest later. Yeah, the damage cap is definitely this game's fun police, and it's why Spellcraft is so broken, because it has a way to avoid it. So we need a couple things in this town. You buy a couple things. The spell shop, which unfortunately is on the complete opposite end of town. However, luckily, the save point very close, and to progress the plot we need a save point now. There's Elemental Barrier and Elemental Boon. I'll explain those as they get used. And here we are, back in this dungeon, to save the game. We'll go to Title from here. Press New Game Plus. And we're back at the beginning. listening to good music once again. However, something is a little bit different. Now, if you remember from 2 hours ago, there was no inputs in this fight at all last time. However, now, you get a turn here, and you press this button. It puts you into the next chapter. And so in this fight, he helps us a lot. So we're just going to defend for turn 1. He'll do Noble Eagle. This is wrong. And this increases 200% to 200%. Or the attack stats to 200%, rather. Which is more than you can usually do, but if you do it in one go, it breaks the limit. And so he just falls over and dies. And now we have a frustrating fight where it can be quite hard to survive sometimes. But worst case, if you lose, you just try again. It does a similar thing to the Nikolai fight from earlier, where if you die, it just gives you another chance. Almost. We will be making grosser use of halvesies in a few spots now as well. Like I mentioned pretty much at the beginning of the run. I know I basically haven't used it yet. So we're going to default a couple times. And then we'll do halvesies, Phoenix down, halvesies, explosion. And they don't always kill someone, but as you see there, but it's safer to do that, obviously. We use this, and then we do halvesies, explosion again, and then we do Mystic Mist. And the reason we want to use Mystic Mist here, over everything else, is just that we want to cancel the mist that she placed on us, because only one mist can be active on any party at any time. So by putting up Mystic Mist here, it cancels hers. I mean, we will use the magic buff anyway. Let's defend here. And set 1. Oh god, I don't have the MP. Well, I guess I'm dead. I didn't even realize. I wonder if I can salvage this. I have never seen that. I'm 7 MP short. No, 2 MP short. Wonder if this is going to be enough. Probably not, right? Okay, it is. Oof. Ah yeah, it overwrites the first one. I'm really glad that killed. Because I have no clue how to fix that. Like Loki. I'm just 1 level down, because I'm 2 MP short. This is the problem of having a grind that goes too well. Because I'm never looking at EXP, I'm looking at JP. Next. Oh, and now we get to grind. Hurrah. Oh, I didn't buy the 3 extra hats. Well, that's another thing I have to do. Unfortunate. I knew there was another thing I was supposed to buy here, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. Oh well, a little bit of time loss. I'm already bleeding time everywhere, so it's not that big a deal. I can use the pig as well. Not a big a deal. I need 3 of these. So our magic attack stat doesn't matter for the next grind at all. You know how because we're going to be using Holy Magic to grind. Which means we need to manually equip a bunch of stuff now. Because the auto or the optimal will not do it for us, unfortunately. I need to rest. Almost forgot again. And then I will do this part of the menu as well. So equip Holy Magic. Everyone. And we'll be starting this side quest to unlock the dungeon immediately below us. Which I'm sure a lot of people know about this dungeon from casual playthroughs. It's Grap Keep. Every enemy here is undead. Naturally, that means we can do some funny stuff. A wee bit of shenanigans, as it were. We are going to progress to the second floor, though. We have to do 4 groups of 3 fights here. But the second floor has better enemy formations, so you guarantee 999 JP per fight. Okay, good. Turn order. That's bad. It's fine though. Salvage it. It's frustrating when that happens because now I'm going to lose my combat, so I now have to do things a little bit differently. I'm probably going to run out of MP, so I should run down here. What's a heal? It doesn't matter. Actually, it's probably wise to do it properly. So I'm going to manually do it here because the first main fight is sketchy. If you just let it go on repeat because of turn orders and such. Later fights are less of an issue because you get so many character levels from these fights that you gain a lot of agility. Please stop. Okay. And now I'm just going to leave repeat on. Don't kill anyone, please. Of course. The enemy got a feeling brave because I forgot to equip something. I'm gonna have to try and run and probably die. Yeah. That's annoying. Now I have to start the grind again. It's not in my notes to equip it for some reason. That's my bad. You're supposed to equip Recognition, and what this does is it stops enemies getting brave attacks and first strikes on you. Now I shouldn't have to deal with that again. Unfortunately, it doesn't auto-save between fights, so this is the entire grind again. It does at least fix the issue I did the first time. Sigh. Well, it is what it is. Oh my god, again. This game does also have a clever alternate subtitle. It's a send player. That was frustrating. So I've still only done one fight of the 4 I need. And yeah, as you can see, this grind is just kind of rough. This is why I picked up the Hermes sandals. And why I should save. I gotta play it safe. Save between fights. I usually wouldn't, but I'm already over here. I probably just should have anyway. Since Marathon. Oh hey, Magnolia outsped somehow. Yeah, it's send player because meta stuff. Of course. It's also SP that are the missing characters, which is the resource you use for the Bravely Second, of course. Which is also neat. Please stop. Yeah, the problem is just that these enemies are so fast that it's hard to outspeed them. Unfortunately, I do have to do an extra fight here because 2 people were dead during one of them. I could theoretically skip it, but I'll make do with other stuff later, but it's much harder to do improv like that than I'm willing to try in a marathon setting. Please stop. Okay, there we go. That's our grind done. I can finally turn off this once again. Teleport out. I was supposed to rest there. Oh well. I can do it in the dungeon, it's not a big deal. Lag. Right. Now I do need to fix my team. And I need to also put this on. Now this full charge ability is very strong, but it's not quite doing its best work yet. What full charge does is, if your MP is completely full, the potency of your next spell, or of your spell whilst you're full, is doubled. Which for now isn't worth that much, because damage cap. You know, there's only so much you can do about damage cap. But once we get the final spellcraft we will have access to, we will be able to very abuse that by making our first spell so obscenely powerful. But that grind, we don't need that full charge yet, but we do need Wizard level 9 before a certain point, and that's how much JP we needed to get Wizard 9 in time for when we need it. Which is a few bosses from now. Now what's supposed to happen in that grind is you have enough MP to barely complete 4 full sets of free fights, So you just go in, do the 4 fights, and leave. You don't even have to restore your MP or anything. But things aren't allowed to go properly in marathon settings. It's just how it be. To be fair though, that first death was my fault. Because I forgot to equip recognition, and the enemies got a brave attack which effectively doubled their damage on me. I would have survived otherwise. So now we have the Geist and Revenant refight that people were alluding to earlier. And these next few fights are going to be a little bit hard in terms of, like, killing them fast. But we have enough defensive mechanics that it shouldn't matter. Shouldn't. Touch wood. Right. My bad. I've got to re-equip summon. Please kill me fast. I should have honestly just defaulted. They're still going to kill me quick through default. No, stop with the cutscenes. I've got to equip summon, please. Just kill me faster. So I can reload my autosave. So I do have an autosave in this this screen at least, so it's not that much of a time loss. Oops. The thing about my strategies in these fights is that if you miss a single thing on a menu, you simply lose. And there's no salvaging most of the fights. It's already a tightrope walk. So hopefully this kills Geist, but it doesn't always, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, maybe it does. Maybe I'm thinking of an old strat. And the usual, just set one, guys. Yeah, the damage cap is really, like, massively getting in our way here for this part of the game, because enemies have just too much HP for us to get all the way through it. In, like, one go. And when your glass cannon squishiness turns out if you can't kill the boss quick, they just kill you. So you have to have defensive mechanics in play. And the only two options there would be grinding more so that we can effectively break the damage cap sooner, or use defensive mechanics, which is what I'm doing. The thing is, I don't want to waste the 999 JP you get from most of these fights. Most of these refights. So in my opinion, it's better to do this. Don't need to equip anything here, right? No. We rest here. I guess I will save. Walk through the screen again. I've had enough silly things happen so far. This fight's going to be a little bit loud, I'm sure, because we're going to be using basic summons rather than spellcrafts. Mystic Blast, and we're going to be using Elemental Barrier Mist. What Elemental Barrier does is it prevents all elemental damage. And as simple as that. And these enemies pretty much exclusively use elemental damage. The buff lasts 3 turns. If you place it on Mist, then it effectively lasts 5 turns. You can see, it just takes 0 damage. And there's a very funny strat later on involving Elemental Barrier. Because an enemy has a very certain stupid spell that we will be nullifying. So I rest here because it's a lot less out of the way than any of the other inns before the next fight. It's a good point, I do need to menu right now, before I forget. Unfortunately, the next fight is RNG though. Sometimes you just lose, and there's nothing you can do about it. These clothespins, we spent 400 per gun, like way at the beginning of the game. Finally gonna see their use. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet if you think Spellcraft is OP now. It's about to get a lot more OP. Oh, right. The cutscenes are at the Elder. Let's forget. So there's a fast strat here, and a slow, slightly safer strat here. I'm not sure which one I should pick. I guess I'll do the slow one. I don't really like doing the slow one though, but yeah. It does stop you just instantly losing if you die on turn 1, or if someone dies on turn 1. I guess I should do the safer one. It takes an entire extra turn, but like, and it's an entire turn you have to like wait for things for BP to come back for as well. He missed, and I could have done the fast strat. Oh well. So the other strategy would have won there. But, you know. That's safe. Safe-ish. So we dodged him twice. That's so rare. And I saved a minute and a half over my PB because I died. My PB. Very funny. Right. Mod check. So fortunately we set up, earlier we saved the stuff we used, or like the command set we used for Geist and Rev to set free. And that will help in the next fight. And this is the entire reason we set it to set free. The nice thing about saving battle sets, like command sets in this game, is that it saves the target slot. So if you target like an enemy that's in slot 2, the saved commands will also target slot 2. And we'll be focusing slot 2 in the next fight, which are very useful. And then the very end of the fight, we'll do the very funny thing that I alluded to earlier. This elemental barrier is very, very broken. turns out giving you complete elemental immunity when a lot of bosses use elemental attacks is pretty strong. Right, set free. That's not set free. That's not what I'm supposed to do, rather. I should live though. Don't think it matters that I'm doing it late. Actually it might, because he might do it right immediately. I'm supposed to use set free and then fix it, but oh well. I'm not supposed to execute it immediately. Okay, yeah, we live. And I can just do blast now. And then we use set 1. And again, we do blast, barrier blast, and we press go, and I'm supposed to wait for default. Oh, it should still work, I think. It might not though. We'll see. Okay, it doesn't. Oh, let's see how this goes. I can just repeat, right? I'll do it again. Should have the MP, yeah. Oh, whoops. Oh, we're not gonna get to see the thing anymore. Well, oh well. Here's what it is. So yeah, I did it wrong. Whoops. I'm supposed to wait for him to default before I do it, and so we're not gonna get to see it. Which is lame, but hey. But the thing that Nikolai would do there is that he has a spell called Sacrifice, which is a light elemental spell that does absolutely obscene damage, but it also kills whoever uses it. And that includes when he uses it despite being a boss. So if you put his HP low enough, he will use Sacrifice, and then it hits your elemental barrier. And he dies to himself without doing any damage. It's very funny. But I skipped one line in my notes, and suddenly it didn't work. Let's not go in the house. I very frequently go into use house there, because I brain fart. But this time, I didn't. I went straight into the dungeon. And so this is like one of the longest dungeons in the game. There's 4 crystals we have to activate. You know, this game loves forcing you to activate a bunch of crystals. And they're on like 4 different corners. You can see them from here. There's one above us, and one above us here. And the other one, they're on the opposite side on the bottom. Or opposite on the bottom. Which means you have to go 2 different directions, and it's pretty far out of the way. But it is what it is. And luckily we don't need to pick up any chests or anything here. We are basically just kitted already to win the video game. There is still a shop in the very final chapter, as I alluded to earlier with the robes. But that's we don't need to pick up anything to have the money for that, because it's been so long since we spent any money at all. But we're just gonna have the money naturally from boss fights and the grind. In fact, I'm going to have way more than enough money because I had to do an extra fight in the grind because people died. So from this direction, it's faster to walk back to here, very slightly. And then from the other direction we'll be teleport stoning out, and then going from the beginning of the dungeon again because it's slightly faster to go that way. Yeah, I like this song. The song's in a lot of different places, but I think it's mostly in like side quest dungeons and stuff. One more crystal to activate, and then we will be able to abuse the strongest spellcraft in the game, and in my opinion, probably the strongest single ability in the game, which is Spellcraft Rain. And what it does is it turns your spell into 4 single target attacks that deal 0.6 times damage each. Total of 2.4, of course. And it has random targets. And that's broken for 2 reasons. One, it's 4 different hits, so it big time just breaks the damage cap. The damage cap is effectively now 39,996 instead of 9,999. And it still treats as, like, when you use it on a spell that's always AoE, like summons, as I mentioned earlier with Dart, you get the 2.0 multiplier with Rain as well. And so it's like 4.8 times damage. And then it also lets you, because it breaks the damage cap, it lets you just front load all of your damage on one spell, especially with Good Measure, which makes extremely good use of the full charge ability that I explained earlier as well, which doubles the potency of your magic. So it's yet another multiplier. And well, you'll see it in action now. It does cost 40 MP, which is a lot, but when it does this much damage, it just doesn't matter how much it costs. And then explosion. He cheats and he comes back with almost 40,000 HP, but, you know, we don't care. And so this is what we'll be doing for the rest of the run, more or less. Now, there is still a couple issues along the way. Which is, the next boss is an issue because it has a unique mechanic that pretty much stops you just doing everything on turn 1. It's also a very strong boss, so it's quite hard to survive, but that's what this broken ability is for, this miscellany one that we've used a few times already. And the final boss causes some issues as well, but I'll cover those when we get there, because that fight will take a little while anyways. Other than that, the only issue with Rain over Dart is that Rain does not have the priority that Dart does, so you don't always go first. And basically every boss outspeeds us at this point. So, naturally that causes some issues. Forum, I think? Oh, it's not here, is it? It's Asma Woods. How far away am I? I'm like about as far away as I can be. Very cool. Oh well. I couldn't find it on my notes in time, where I had to travel to. It do be like that. So yeah, this next boss, it's called Diamant. Its unique mechanic is that it has its own like unique gauge, which it starts at 100%, goes down 20% each time you trigger its ability. And what its ability does is it reflects any attack back onto you. And it costs 20% to do that, and it recovers 20% every turn. Now there's 2 ways to get around that. You can strip the 80% that you need to. I do have full, yeah. Before you go all in, and then just go all in with 20% and don't die to the reflected 20%, the one hit. Or you can reflect off of your own team. Unfortunately, we will not be reflecting off of our own team, as much as I would like to. Oh, we will be making use of a different spell. We will not be using Summon for a change. And the way we're going to strip it is we're just going to do 2 attacks like this. I'm gonna use the FellVisage potion to survive. Yeah, you can see its gauge, mirror 40% there. And then we're gonna use Shadow instead, because it's weak to it, and it has, why am I going up? It has a resistance to other elements. And the reason this is going to do enough damage is because we have Elemental Boon, which gives you plus 50% elemental damage, but it doesn't stack with the... It doesn't stack with the Fire Rods, so that's why we don't use it when we're using fire spells. Well, it stacks, but it stacks, you know, to the natural cap of 50%. So that was Turtle Dove, the bird on a unicorn, as people like to say. Fighting this thing long term is very, very difficult. Every time you hit it, it like gains power, and then it unleashes it all in one really big attack. And it's very, very difficult to survive it, unless you have like complete light immunity or whatever. But it also just has really strong physical attacks, including one physical attack that is multiple hits on single targets, but it counts as an AoE attack, so damage dispersion won't protect you from it. And so what will happen is I mean, you can still die on that boss in the run. If it does that attack and it targets the same person at least 4 times, I believe it is. So this is the robe I've been alluding to for a while, Magus robe. Basically just an amplifier, except slightly stronger. I did this in the wrong order. And I also bought a shield for Tiz, because Tiz's damage doesn't matter. He just needs to live, typically. Now the next boss, it's just an RNG check, basically. If it chooses to do the wrong thing, you lose. There's not really anything you can do about it, either, with my current strategies. However, the chances that it does something that makes you lose is very low. There's like a very specific series of events that has to happen. Or rather, it has to do a very specific action on very specific targets. Now this is a dungeon that was in the first game. As was of course Grap Keep, but that was a side quest dungeon. And that's because, naturally, we're in Caldyla right now, which is the first town of the first game. Despite being the final town this game. And for some reason, despite the path through here being not all that simple, I've just never gotten lost here. And I basically just have to attribute it to the fact that I did run Bravely Default. A long, long time ago. I did like 2 runs. With a good old trusty hand cam pointed at my 3DS stream. Now then, am I fully... What's that? Right. So this is Turtle Dove. If it causes one of your DPS characters to fall in love with exactly Tiz, you simply lose. I think there's something else it can do as well, but it's a lot rarer. So we're going to be using Resvelga here because it's weak to wind. We also want to save this as a set for later. Barrier Blast. Save this as set 3. And what characters do is, if they fall in love, they copy the actions of the character they fall in love with. And even then, it doesn't always make you lose if it happens, because you're only supposed to need 2 of those Resvelgas. But sometimes the damage ranges mean you need all 3, because the Fall in Love thing, it doesn't actually cause any issues other than the fact that you don't get to cast for that turn. And then they'll just be stuck doing nothing for the rest of combat until you die. No, that's not the button. Still not sure if it's better to autopilot here or to just sail over. Especially since it's 3DS, so load times are pretty long. That was definitely slower because I pressed the wrong button, but you know. And so now we just have a couple mostly easy fights left, and then the final boss. Or one incredibly easy fight left, and then the final boss gauntlet. One more dungeon. Quelle déception. But yeah. This, however, I'm sure is faster to do this for. Rather than running the old-fashioned way. Yet another dungeon from the first game. But obviously it's hard to call this a dungeon. Other than the fact that I can still get lost. Still have to guess. Hard guess. I pick this one. Which way I'm supposed to go. Because I just... At this dungeon, I think it's because it's so late in the run that I just can never remember which way I'm supposed to go. Unfortunately, we are going to have to do the silly Bravely Default mechanic of mashing the X button to progress shortly. But there might be a little surprise when we do. Who knows? Now Anne, just like the last time, is weak to fire. Very, very weak to fire. So we don't have to menu at all, we can just press the button like this. Now these fights on any difficulty other than easy would be incredibly difficult to push through, because they just end up having enough HP that you can't... you can't finish them like this, and you have to tank them for a little bit.
I can see the path to the celestial realm. Do not let up my children.
It's a penguin.
Finally.
Now this dungeon of warps, where you try your best to not get lost. And there's only one chest I'm going to need from this dungeon, and that's because I need 2 megalixirs to beat the video game. Because there's a boss gauntlet at the end. And we need to heal between it, and megalixir is just the way to do it. Oh no, I should really do this now before I forget. So yes, we will be using confectionery yet again. So the gimmick on that penguin picture is that it uses your 3DS camera to put you on there. But no. Because the celestial world in lore is the real world, basically. Us human beings are celestials. Went the wrong way, didn't I? I certainly did. Right, it's up here and then it's up left. Luckily, we only have to do the silly Mash X minigame once in this game. The biggest downfall of Bravely Default is definitely having to do that more than once. If you want true ending, you have to do it so many times that it's not even funny. That's why, and I think it's definitely a part of why there's so few true end runners of Bravely Default 1. Biggest weakness of the entire game. Definitely that silly mechanic nobody likes. Each one is a lot longer than the one I just did as well. You have to mash for a long time in Bravely Default for each crystal. Alright, final screen, more or less. And we just have the final boss gauntlet. Wow. Updated data. So have I got everything equipped that I need? Yeah. I equipped confectionery, right. And I have the SP, yeah. So luckily, SP is allowed to go to -1 just like BP before it stops using anymore. Else I would be in trouble here. Because I will be using Bravely Second here in this fight and between the final two fights as well. And the reason I need it here is only for consistency. It just stops there being any chance of losing. I'm going to use confectionery here to reduce its magic attack. Because that's the only attack that can kill me. My strategy. And I just do set free. Now I'm immune to elements, and my wind is strong. And he's weak to wind. That attack would have killed everyone. Or more accurately, it would have killed all of my DPS mages if I didn't use Bravely Second to reduce his magic attack. And that's why it's in the strat. Now there is a different strat you can do here where his final phase gives you like 3 turns to recover your BP back. But in my opinion this is just faster. Especially since I already have Resvelga set up from earlier. Now it's very important to use a Mega Elixir here and to equip Missile Amity. Because otherwise I will lose. And the problem here is the run is effectively bricked unless I save edit if I lose from here on, because SP doesn't come back after it saves. Actually, maybe this fight doesn't. Maybe it doesn't save between fights. I don't remember. I think it does though. I'm pretty sure it saves between the fights here. But luckily the strat is entirely consistent, so it shouldn't be an issue. So we default. And then we set up some darts. So U uses dart on slot 2. Dia uses dart on slot 1. Amelia uses it on slot 3. And then we do halvesies, elixir, throw a bomb on. And we save this set free. And so the reason Rain doesn't just trivialize this fight is because multiple hits of Rain can hit each of the hands. So the hands have 7,500 HP, I believe. Maybe less on casual difficulty. So that's part 1. But you'd think that Rain would only be able to hit it once, and then it's dead, right? Unfortunately, all of Rain's hits are calculated before any damage is dealt. So you can waste 3 entire Rain hits on a single hand here. So it's very important to kill the ads before any shenanigans happen. So the next boss is the final boss, so time is coming up here. I'll make sure I call it when it happens. But luckily this next fight is very simple, especially since we have a Bravely Second on deck. Still. To solve the fight, or to solve the main issue of the fight, which is that we don't have full MP. However, we had 2 Mega Elixirs, so we can just do this. And so we still need to default turn 1, and now we're just going to do the same strat again, which is why we saved it as set free, because now we do default, set free, do set 1, and as soon as he dies, that will be the end of the run. Except that Arm didn't die. Can I salvage this? I don't think so. Oh, it only did 1 hit. That might be fine. Oh, it didn't kill it. I haven't seen that happen before. I'm probably dead. Maybe. I can survive. Is there anything I can do? I'm not sure. I have never seen him survive, and I've tested this strat so many times. Okay. Oh! Let me input it twice, just in case, because I'm not too sure. That's all the words I have right now. I'm just gonna do this for just in case. Oh, but okay, that's time. Oh, yeah, that was very spooky. Marathons, eh? And that is why I buy the shield for Tiz. He would have died so fast if he didn't have that shield. Whew. Luckily, once the hands had respawned and done their attacks, there was very little, like, actual threat left. They basically don't attack anymore at that point. So, that's Bravely Second. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll just let the ending play out until people tell me to get lost, basically. And, that'll be all. It was, the run was okay. It's 14 minutes behind my PB/world record, of course. But, there was a few deaths and a couple menu mistakes, as happens, but the first attack, that boss does have an attack that it can do whilst you're menuing. The first instance of it can't go off until the 3rd attack, though, as far as I know. Or until your 3rd turn. After that, I believe it's on a timer.
I'm sorry. I don't think I'll be...
Which, it did do it. We saw it do it when I pressed, yeah, I pressed Halvesies and pressed Phoenix down, and then it did it, right?
Stop it. This isn't funny.
But Tiz is tanky enough because of the shield that he can just tank it, so and take no damage, or very little damage.
Looks like this is it, huh?
Ooh.
No, you can't mean...
Strictly speaking, I could have still finished the run even if I had died there, because, as I said earlier, the Bravely Second on that first boss, the one that looked like a bird, to reduce his magic attack, that's entirely optional. You only need it if it does that attack that it did, which wipes your party if you... if it does it and you don't use the M attack down. But it does mean that I could have been stuck in Save Scum Hell whilst I find an RNG seed where he doesn't do it.
My duties were done. I was going to join you, Tiz. Please, Tiz. Don't go. Don't leave me here alone. Tiz.
But my heart is still beating fast because of that stupid final phase.
Yes. Hey, Idia.
Oh.
Don't eat too many sweets, okay?
Shut up! I'll eat as much as I want
I
to!
actually wonder why I didn't kill. Oh right, it's probably... I'm probably a level down or something. I've been a level down like all run, right? So
Basim, what are you
I'm probably
saying?
still a level
We still
down
have time?
at the end here.
You.
As I say, this run, I have routed it to basically be one long tightrope walk from start, well not from start to end, but from the grind until, the first grind until the end of the game. It's just like all tightrope of just barely surviving over and over.
Our new world. Tiz.
And barely having enough damage apparently, because being one level down
Why is this happening?
either means you don't have the damage or the MP to do the strat.
Made it.
I don't believe I was 2 MP down.
You gave
Uh.
everything to save Luxembourg, and now
So yeah, this game, I love this game. I think this game has the best speedrun of the Free Bravely Default games, personally. It has a lot of variety in the strats that you use. I know that it just looked like it was all spellcraft to kill everything. And while that's mostly true, that's only true for the DPS, right? I use freelancer jobs to survive, I use holy magic to survive, I use astrologian to buff DPS and to survive. There's a lot of variety in trying to survive. I think Bravely Third could happen, especially with Bravely Default 2 doing so well.
Hey, can't you see we have other things on our minds?
Well, I say so well, I'm actually not that sure how well it did, but I think it did decently.
Like your friend Tiz.
Oh,
When
I see someone
Opal's soul
typing.
left him,
They're
his
telling me
tenuous
to
grasp on life was
get
broken.
lost.
But what is a soul but the embodiment of our
Okay, yeah.
wishes, dreams,
Right,
and
I've been
desires?
given the go-ahead to wrap up, so thank you very much once again. I am FellVisage, I run lots of silly JRPGs.
Long after their physical
Most of them are very RNG heavy at the end of the game,
Why
including this
did
one
you not
apparently.
fill Tiz's
Thank you for
body
watching,
with power?
Bravely Second, good game, play it,
The
and
hourglass.
I hope you enjoy the rest of Questing for Glory, and thank you High Spirits for putting on the run.
Here, Tiz,
Goodbye, friends.
come back to us, Tiz.